Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we are going to explore something truly mind-blowing, the inner workings of life itself. We're talking about control and coordination. It's this incredible hidden system that allows every single living thing, from you and me to the smallest little plant in a pot, to make sense of its surroundings and react to them. Think of it as the ultimate command center, running the entire show from behind the scenes.
So let me ask you something. I'm sure this has happened to you. You're in the kitchen, you accidentally touch a hot pan, and your hand just flies back instantly. It's almost like it has a mind of its own, right? And then a split second after your hand is already safe, your brain catches up and you think, ouch, that was hot. Ever wondered why that happens? Why the action comes before the feeling? Well, that's not magic, my friends. That's a perfect, real-world example of your body's incredible high-speed response system at work. It's called a reflex, and is one of the first things we'll unravel today. Now, the big question is, why do we need these super-fast reactions? And why do countless other things happen inside our bodies without us even thinking about them? Well, it all comes down to one single, crucial concept: maintaining balance. This biological balancing act has a special name. It's called homeostasis. You can think of it like the thermostat in your house. If it gets too cold, the heat kicks in. Too hot, the AC turns on. Your body is doing the exact same thing 24/7, trying to keep everything, your temperature, your blood sugar, your water levels, in a perfect, stable condition. This constant drive for balance is precisely why all living organisms, big and small, absolutely need a system for control and coordination.
Okay, so if maintaining balance is the goal, how do animals actually pull it off? It turns out they have two amazing systems working together. We're going to start with the first one, the really fast one. Imagine it's the body's own super fast internet connection, a biological broadband network that sends messages in the blink of an eye.
And that high-speed network is, of course, the nervous system. You can literally think of it as your body's electrical wiring. It's made up of billions of specialized cells that connect every single part of you. The nervous system's job is threefold. First, it gathers information from the world using your senses. Second, it processes that information at incredible speeds. And third, it triggers a response. That could be anything from kicking a football to your heart beating faster. It's an organized point-to-point network that allows for unbelievably quick coordination.
So what is this incredible wiring made of? The basic building block, the fundamental unit of the whole system, is a special cell called a neuron. This is the star of the show. It's the structural and functional unit of the entire nervous system. And get this, some neurons are actually the longest cells in the entire human body. You have neurons that can stretch all the way from the base of your spine down to your big toe. That's one single cell. And their whole design, their entire structure, is built for just one job: to transmit signals or nerve impulses from one place to another.
Let's quickly look at the anatomy of a typical neuron. It's got three main parts. First up is the cell body, sometimes called the cyton. This is the neuron's headquarters. It contains the nucleus and all the main machinery. Then, you see these tiny branch-like extensions spreading out from the cell body? Those are called dendrites. Think of them as the neuron's antennas. Their job is to receive signals, either from the environment or from other neurons. And finally, you have this one long, cable-like fiber stretching away from the cell body. That's the axon. The axon's job is to transmit the signal away, carrying the message to its next destination. So, dendrites receive, axon transmits. Simple as that.
So if a message travels down one neuron's axon, how does it get to the next neuron? You might imagine they're all connected end-to-end, like one continuous wire, but that's not how it works. There's actually a tiny, microscopic gap between the end of one neuron and the beginning of the next. And this special meeting point, this junction, is called a synapse.
This is where things get really cool. When that electrical signal traveling down the axon reaches the end, it can't just jump across the gap. Electricity can't do that. So instead, the neuron performs an amazing trick. The arrival of the electrical impulse triggers the release of special chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. These chemicals pour out, travel across that tiny synaptic gap, and then lock onto special receptors on the dendrites of the next neuron. And guess what? This binding action starts a new electrical impulse in the second neuron. So it's a beautiful conversion, from an electrical signal to a chemical signal and back to an electrical signal again. Absolutely brilliant.
Okay, now that we know how neurons talk to each other, let's go all the way back to that hot pan. That super fast, automatic reaction where you don't even have to think about it, that's what we call a reflex action. The official definition is a sudden, involuntary response to a stimulus. It's the nervous system's built-in emergency protocol designed to protect you from danger before your conscious brain even knows what's happening.
The pathway that this emergency signal travels along is called the reflex arc. Let's trace it step by step. First, special cells called receptors in your skin detect the stimulus, in this case, intense heat. That triggers an electrical signal that zips along a sensory neuron, carrying the danger message towards your central nervous system. Now, here's the clever part. The signal doesn't go all the way to the brain. Instead, it goes to the spinal cord. The spinal cord acts like a local manager, and it makes an instant decision on its own. It immediately sends a command back out along a motor neuron. That motor neuron carries the instruction to what we call an effector, in this case, the muscles in your arm. The muscles get the command, they contract, and poof, your hand is pulled away to safety. Now, the message does eventually get to your brain, which is why you feel the pain a moment later. But the action happened first, thanks to this brilliant spinal cord shortcut.
All right, so we know the spinal cord handles reflexes, but what about everything else? All our thoughts, feelings, and voluntary actions? Well, the entire human nervous system is neatly organized into two main parts. First, you have the central nervous system, or CNS for short. This is the main headquarters, the command center. And then you have the peripheral nervous system, the PNS. This is the vast network of all the other nerves that spread out from the center, connecting the CNS to every other part of your body, like a massive system of roads and cables.
Let's zoom in on the central nervous system, the CNS. It's actually made up of just two incredibly important parts, the brain and the spinal cord. That's it. But this duo is responsible for everything. All the heavy lifting, the complex processing of information, all the decision-making, it all happens right here. If your body were a country, the CNS would be its government, making all the big important decisions.
Now let's talk about the brain itself, the master controller. It's broadly divided into three major parts. You have the forebrain, which is the biggest part. This is where the cerebrum is located, and it's responsible for all the things we consider thinking, solving problems, memory, intelligence, language, and consciousness. Then you have the midbrain, which acts as a bridge, connecting the forebrain and the hindbrain. And finally, there's the hindbrain at the back. This part is an absolute hero because it takes care of all the vital functions that keep you alive without you even noticing. It contains the cerebellum, which is crucial for balance, posture, and smooth, coordinated movements, like riding a bicycle. And it also has the medulla, which controls all the involuntary stuff, your heartbeat, your breathing, swallowing, sneezing. You don't have to remember to do these things, the medulla handles it all for you.
Speaking of involuntary actions, there's a specific part of the nervous system that controls them, called the autonomic nervous system. And it has two divisions that work in opposition, like a perfect team. First, you have the sympathetic division. This is your fight or flight system. When you're scared or stressed, it kicks in, increasing your heart rate and getting your body ready for emergency action. On the other side, you have the parasympathetic division. This is your rest and digest system. It does the exact opposite. It calms everything down, slows your heart rate, and gets your digestion going again. So you can think of them as the accelerator and the brake pedal for your body. One revs you up, the other cools you down.
Okay, we spent a lot of time on the super fast electrical network of the nervous system. But remember I said animals have a second system? Well, here it is. If the nervous system is like sending a text message, it's instant and direct, then this second system is more like sending a letter through registered post. It takes a bit longer to arrive, but its message can be delivered to many places at once and can have a much longer lasting effect.
And this second system is the incredible endocrine system. Let's compare the two side by side. The nervous system uses super-fast electrical impulses that travel along dedicated nerve pathways. Its effects are immediate, but also very short-lived. The endocrine system, on the other hand, uses chemical messengers called hormones. These chemicals are released into the bloodstream and travel all over the body. This process is much slower, but the effects of hormones can last for a very long time, hours, days, or in some cases even years. Both are essential for coordination, they just work on different timescales.
So, what exactly are these hormones? Well, they are powerful chemical messengers. They aren't nutrients like vitamins or proteins. Their only job is to carry instructions from one set of cells to another. They are produced by special organs called endocrine glands, which release them directly into your bloodstream. The blood then carries them all over the body. But here's the clever bit. Even though they go everywhere, they only affect specific target cells or organs that have the right kind of receptor to receive their message. It's like sending a letter addressed to a specific person. And what's truly amazing is that they work in incredibly tiny amounts. Just a little bit of a hormone can have a huge effect on the body.
Let's meet some of the major players, the main endocrine glands in the human body. Right up in the brain, you have the pituitary gland, often called the master gland because it controls so many other glands and releases crucial things like growth hormone. In your neck, the thyroid gland produces thyroxine,
a hormone that controls your body's overall metabolism, how fast you burn energy. By the way, thyroxine needs iodine to be made, which is why we have iodized salt. Then you have the adrenal glands sitting on top of your kidneys, which pump out adrenaline when you need that fight or flight boost. The pancreas is a key player, making insulin to control your blood sugar levels. And of course, the testes in males produce testosterone, and the ovaries in females produce estrogen, the hormones that control sexual development and reproduction.
Now, with all these powerful chemicals floating around, how does the body make sure it doesn't release too much or too little? It uses a clever system called a feedback loop. Let's take blood sugar as a perfect example. You eat a meal and your blood sugar level goes up. Your pancreas detects this change and starts releasing insulin into the blood. Insulin acts like a key, unlocking your body's cells so they can absorb the sugar for energy. Your liver also takes up extra sugar and stores it. As a result, your blood sugar level starts to fall, and as it falls back to normal, the pancreas gets the signal to slow down and stop releasing insulin. This is called a negative feedback loop because the result, lower blood sugar, inhibits the original process. It's a self-regulating system that keeps everything in perfect balance.
Okay, so we've seen how animals have these two amazing complex systems, nervous and endocrine. But that brings up a fascinating question. What about plants? Plants don't have brains, they don't have nerves, they can't run away from danger. And yet, a sunflower turns to face the sun. The roots of a tree grow down, towards gravity and water. How on earth do they coordinate all of this without a nervous system?
Well, it turns out that plant movements can be divided into two main categories. First, we have tropic movements. The key thing here is that they are directional. The plant moves towards or away from a stimulus. These movements are also dependent on growth, which means they are generally quite slow and irreversible. Think of a stem bending towards a window. On the other hand, we have nastic movements. These are non-directional. The direction of the stimulus doesn't matter. These movements are independent of growth, are often much faster, and are reversible.
Let's quickly go through the different kinds of tropic movements. Phototropism is a response to light. Photo means light. Shoots grow towards light. Geotropism is a response to gravity. Roots grow down, shoots grow up. Hydrotropism is a response to water. Roots will literally grow towards a source of water. Thigmotropism is a really interesting one. It's a response to touch. You see this in climbing plants, where their tendrils touch a support and then coil around it. And finally, chemotropism is a response to chemicals, a great example being how a pollen tube grows down towards the ovule during plant reproduction, guided by chemical signals.
So how do plants actually do this? How does a stem bend towards light? It's not magic, it's chemistry. The secret lies in a plant hormone called auxin. Auxin is produced at the very tip of the plant shoot, and its job is to make cells grow longer. But here's the catch. Auxin is a bit shy. It doesn't like light. So when light is shining on a plant from one side, the auxin moves over to the shady side of the stem. This means you get a higher concentration of this growth hormone on the shady side. So the cells on the shady side grow longer and faster than the cells on the sunny side. And what happens when one side of a stick grows faster than the other? It bends. And so the entire shoot bends towards the light. It's a beautifully simple and effective mechanism.
Now what about those fast, nasty movements? The most famous example is the touch-me-not plant, or Mimosa pudica. If you've ever seen one, you know that the moment you touch its leaves, they fold up and droop. This isn't growth. This is all about water pressure. At the base of each little leaflet, there are special swollen structures. When the leaf is touched, an electrical chemical signal causes water to rush out of these cells. They lose their turgor pressure, become limp, and the whole leaf structure collapses. It's a rapid, reversible defense mechanism. After a few minutes, the water flows back in, and the leaves open up again.
So just like animals have hormones, plants have their own set of chemical messengers, which we call phytohormones. We can broadly classify them into two groups. You have the growth promoters, which encourage things to grow. That includes auxins, which we've met, gibberellins, which help stems get longer and break seed dormancy, and cytokinins, which promote rapid cell division, especially in fruits and seeds. Then you have the growth inhibitors, which slow things down or stop processes. Abscisic acid, for example, is a stress hormone that promotes dormancy and tells the plant to close its stomata to save water. And then there's ethylene, a unique hormone that's actually a gas, which is famous for causing fruits to ripen.
So, we've journeyed through the high-speed electrical world of animal nerves, and we've explored the slower, deliberate world of chemical messaging in both animals and plants. Let's take a step back now and look at the big picture. We've seen two very different strategies, but both are aiming to achieve the exact same goal: survival through coordination.
This final comparison really brings it all home. When you look at animal coordination, they have a dual system, the super-fast nervous system for immediate reactions and the slower endocrine system for long-term regulation. They use both electrical impulses and chemical hormones.
Plants, on the other hand, rely on just one system, a purely chemical one using their phytohormones. As a result, animal responses can range from instantaneous to slow, while plant responses are, for the most part, much, much slower, because they depend on chemical diffusion and growth.
And that brings us to our final thought. Nerves or no nerves, brain or no brain. Every single living thing has found a way to coordinate its parts to respond to the world and, ultimately, to survive. The animal strategy is fast, complex, and energy-intensive. The plant strategy is slow, simple, and efficient, which leads to a fascinating question to ponder. Which system do you think is actually more efficient for the kind of life that organism leads? It's a great reminder of the incredible diversity of solutions that evolution has come up with to solve the fundamental challenges of life,